Do you guys ever want to know how to modify an STL in Fusion360 so that you can go ahead and add features to it, like power outputs for this bench power supply? I'm going to show you how to do that today. Welcome back, guys. I'm Shane and this is Fugatech 3D printing, and that's a different intro. A couple people have been joking, my intros are the same, but hey, I thought I'd have fun with this one. So today I'm going to show you guys how to bring any STL into Fusion360. For us today specifically, it's going to be this PSU cover that I'm going to modify for this bench power supply. And with a couple things that you need to do in order to make it editable, so you can make changes to it and then export it as an STL and then 3D print it. So when I say bench power supply, what do I mean? And also, this is a super crude version. There's way better and way different things to do, but this just worked out for the immediate need that I had for a power supply. That's fun. So when I say bench power supply, what is that? Well, it's basically a power supply that sits on your test bench, your workbench, your desk, and it has easy inputs, or easy outputs I should say, to be able to get power from this into whatever device that you're working on. They come in all sorts, shapes, sizes, and prices. I wanted to actually 3D print one for quite a long time, but they're just too expensive to buy the parts, or you can get a very, usable one for about 40-50 bucks on eBay, which is what I did. And that's what's actually underneath the camera right now on my workbench desk area, but I need something that's a little more portable than that. So I went ahead and took an old power supply. This is from the AlphaWise U10 that I destroyed for an upcoming project, and I went ahead and modified a cover that I found for it so that I could have a few outputs from this to be easy able to plug in some electronics into it. A quick disclaimer to this: this is going to be dealing with mains voltage, which is 120 or 220 volts depending on where you live in the world, and the output of this power supply is DC 12 volts. If you're not comfortable dealing with this voltage, then please do not do this. Seek help from someone or seek something that's already pre-built. But if you are interested, then keep on watching and we'll get started. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into Fusion360 and I'll show you how I made the changes to add a few JST connectors and a few XT-60 connectors to this. Alright, well, we're in here in Fusion360 and we're going to need to import a model in order to edit. Now you could start this from scratch, but I wanted to look online because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if somebody already did part of the work for you. So I go on Thingiverse here and I went ahead and searched 250-12. So that's what's printed on the side of my power supply. I wanted to kind of browse around and see, did anybody make anything else? And lo and behold, I found that someone made this power supply cover. And this is for the Anycubic console heated bed. Apparently that is what the power supply is that comes with the console. I got mine by buying it and use it as a spare in an old printer, but this looked like it was going to match up. So we need to import this model into Fusion360. How do we do that? So the way that I've found, this might not be the most right way, but it works really well for me. We're going to go ahead up here to create. We're going to create a base feature. We're going to go to insert and then insert mesh. And then we're going to go ahead and pick our object, which this is the PSU box.obj. That's what we downloaded there. And it comes in like that. So as we can see right now, so we have our bottom axis here is upside down. So we're going to go ahead and rotate this 180 degrees, 180, there we go. And it's not on the floor, so we're going to zoom in here and we're going to pull this down until it rests on the axis. So there it is. Now we can go hit OK. So here we have a mesh. This is really not editable yet. You see when I select it, the whole thing selects. We're going to right click and go mesh to brep. And just want to make it a new body and hit OK. And there it is. And now I can select different things. Well, as you can see, it's got all these weird oddities going on. So we're going to just select a big triangle and hit delete. And we're going to go around to every face and make sure there are no extra geometry anywhere we don't want it to be. This makes it a lot easier to edit the file once we go to start editing it. We just need to make sure that everything no longer has these. It also joins up a lot of extra faces that might be actually split for some odd way or odd reason. But that is up here too. And there's that. Very quick and easy. All good. All right, so now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead and do and finish base feature. Now we're going to actually start editing the object. This cutout right here is perfect for what I need because it fits my switch in there, but I don't need these mounting holes. So I'm going to create a new sketch on here, and when we do that, it kind of outlines and boundaries, everything for us. We can go ahead and hit finish sketch. So literally, we're not doing anything. And we're just gonna edit these two objects here. We're gonna go ahead and hit E for extrude. And I'm gonna do, instead of distance, I'm gonna go to object, and the object is gonna be that line, that wall in the back, and join, hit OK, and boom. Just like that, those are gone. Very quick and easy to do. We're gonna do the exact same thing over here because I don't need an output in here. My output is gonna be, cutouts for sockets and things like that here. Okay, another sketch here, hit finish sketch, extrude this hole to object, the inside of the wall, and hit OK. And then bam, that's gone as well. Now you could go and use this same sketch here, but I like to keep it clean, so we're gonna do a new sketch on this wall. This is where I want to put my inputs, or I should say my outputs, from the PSU to the different things I need to power. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create 4 different outlets down here. I'm going to do 2 JST jumper ones, which I have. It's just what I had laying around, and they work out well. I would do, these work out the best. Normal JSTs won't work out, like the black ones, but these ones are kind of like locking, so I really do like them. And then we're going to do 2 XT-60 connectors so that we can hook up more heavy-duty things. Something's going to take more load. It's a 20 amp power supply, so it can definitely put out the power that we need, but we're going to use that for our high gauge wire and for our very, very heavy applications for this. So we're going to go ahead and just start pretty much anywhere we want. We want to get a little bit off the ground here, so I'm just going to go ahead and start here, come over a little bit, and I know that I need this to be 8.1 millimeters, and then from the center of this, I know I need to go up 15.75. We're going to make this construction line. We're going to make another line here that's going to go 12.5 on this side, 12.5, and then I know that my top up here is 2.1 millimeters, so we're going to do 1.1, I'm sorry, it's 2.2, and line this way, I'm going to do 1.1. Now we can use another line here to connect these objects. We just escape out of that. We now can select the whole middle there, and we now know that that is the proper sizing for it. Now we need 2 of these. We're just going to double click on those lines, Control C, Control V, slide it over a little bit, about there's good, and hit OK. There, now we have 2 of those holes ready to go. But I do want to have a little bit of support on the inside, so we're going to go ahead and hit O and create an offset for each of these, but we'll have to do one at a time. And I'm going to do it at 1.5 millimeters. Seems to be enough for it to actually print properly. Hit O again, click on this one, 1.5. Enter. Now we're going to do 2 different extrudes, and then we're actually going to well, before we do that, let's go ahead and add in our other slots here. So we're just going to go ahead and create another line. I'm just going to go over from the bottom of this one, and this needs to be 4.1. Enter. Another line up here. Actually, we could just do a rectangle. That'd probably be easier. So hit R for rectangle, go across here, and this one is 4.1, and this one is 6.1, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Double click, Control C, Control V. Move it over a little bit. I like it right there. Hit OK. Now I did create an offset for these 2 originally, but it didn't actually print because they're so small. And for these smaller connectors, it's not necessary. But we can go ahead and do it just for the shakes of it. We'll do it at, so if I do 1.5, I don't know if they're going to overlap too much at all, but we'll do another offset here for this one, 1.5. Now actually, we're just going to go ahead and move this one down just so it connects with that one there. And make those match, and there we go. Very simple. So now we're going to go ahead and do E for extrude, and we're going to select all of our middle items, and we're just going to drag it through a couple millimeters, hit OK. Then we've got our 4 holes. We're going to turn sketch 3 back on. We're going to hit E for extrude again. We're going to select the 2 big ones here, and we're going to go -10, make this to join, and that's going to create kind of like a socket hole for those 2 right there. We're going to do the same thing, hit E for extrude, select these 2 items, so we're going to do -5 for these ones, and hit join, and OK. Now we have these cutouts in here that will extend in so that we are able to have these kind of seated a little bit better. We're going to use a little bit of super glue, a little bit of hot glue, but we want to make sure these do not move once they are inserted in there, and that will help give us a little bit more surface area to make that happen. So one more thing we need to do to make this a little bit easier to print is if you look down in here, there's nothing under these. They're going to print in midair. That's not going to work out. And you could do 2 different things. You could print on its side. I don't want to do that. I want this to be the bottom. So down here, I'm just going to create a giant rectangle, and we're going to extrude that by -5 and hit OK. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit extrude again, and I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and we're just gonna move these to object down to here, hit OK. And then let's try these ones one more time. E for extrude, here, and E. Oh, it's just gonna do that one. Okay, fine, so we'll do it to distance, to there, okay. Sometimes Fusion can be finicky, but you know what, it's okay. And now I'm gonna go back and delete this extrude and that sketch. And there might be a better way to do that, but I don't know, that way just works out well for me. So now these have them extending all the way down to the bottom, and they're nice and flush down there so that they will actually print upwards, and they'll have a lot of strength to them, and there won't be any weird overhangs or anything in there. And it's going to be very easy to bridge these sockets and this opening right here for the power. Very, very easy to do that. So, and then on my power supply, there's only one screw over here on this far side. It does match up with mine, which is very good, but yours might not. It might be an M4. This is for an M3. So you'll kind of have to figure that out to trial and error, see what works. You also could take this right here, how I did the measurements for the XT-60 and the JST connectors. You can make that onto a single object and then print it flat. So you could easily just make a rectangle per se on any axis here. So there's a rectangle, and then we can actually draw out our object in here. You know, I'm doing this very crudely here, just to get my point across. All right, and then we can extrude this. Actually, we'll just extrude this 5 mil, and then what you can do is you can print out this test object and see if that fits in there. Rather than wasting filament for all of this, you could easily create this little template and work that out. I've created these templates for many other different things, but for this one, you know, again, we don't have to, but it was very simple to do something like that in Fusion and go from there. Other than that, there's nothing I really need to change. I did notice mine is a smidgen little bit tight, so if anything, I would extrude this out here by so negative 0.02, just to cut that a little bit there, and then the same thing on this front side here. Extrude negative 0.2 millimeters, and that way it gives me just a smidge more clearance in there for the power supply, because it did crack, but that's okay. You live and you learn, and this is a better version. So that's the Fusion part. Now let's go ahead and actually print this and build it. So as you can see, very, very little changes need to be made to this model, and that was kind of a blessing in disguise. Thankfully, I found a model that was able to be used for what I wanted. You could draft this up from scratch if you needed to, and thankfully Thingiverse just has so many models on there. You can find something that's close to what you need, bring that into Fusion, and modify it. All right, so that's pretty simple in Fusion, eh? So all we got to do now is print this out. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Galaxy Series Storm Black from Go 3D Print. Very small 200 gram spools. They sent me a bunch of these while I go for review. Most of it's pretty good. This black actually was. So I figured I would get this out, throw it on my Prusa i3 Mark III S clone, and get that printed. And then we end up with this. All right, so now we have it printed. We're going to go ahead and use some Bob Smith Industries Insecure on these and go ahead and push in the different connectors. So again, I'm using 2 of these red JSTs. They're like a locking type, and they just easily slip right in, and it's a nice snug fit. And then next we're using 2 XT-60 connectors. Again, this has a much higher gauge wire on it. I believe it is 14 gauge on these, and this is going to be for anything that requires, you know, a high amperage output. These JSTs can handle that type of load. So that's why I'm using some of those on here as well. All right, now we're going to put in the power switch. It clicks right in there pretty nicely, but I did want to go ahead and add in a little bit of super glue to get this to stay in, just so it wouldn't pop back out. The wall was a little bit thick, so this just makes sure that there's a nice seat with that. And finally, inside those connectors, I didn't feel the super glue was going to hold enough, so I take a little bit of hot glue and kind of just put it on there. Hot glue is easy to come off with a pair of needle nose pliers if you have to get it off. But again, I don't really think it's going to happen. I can always just rip these out later, as I have lots of these connectors, so it's not a big problem, but it's going to make sure that those are secure, because when you push in your male connector into these, you want to make sure that doesn't push all the way in. That's going to be a problem. Now it's just simple of hooking it up. So you have your live, neutral, and ground. Depending on the country you live in and where your cable came from, these colors might differ. So again, it just really depends. Go by with your local code. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect the JSTs, which they are just little pigtails basically. So I can do 2 of them on one for the negative, and then 2 of them one for the positive.
And now we have the heavier gauge. I went ahead and put some connectors on these to make sure these seat really well. Again, this is high amperage, and put in the negative and then the 2 positive. I kept the cables just long enough in order to get these to fit in. I didn't want to have too much extra wire down in there because I tried to keep this thing as small form factor as possible. So I just had to keep those cables really, really small in there. And then once that's all done, this can just kind of squeeze in, and then that one hole on the one side will eventually line up, and you can put a screw in there. I did make this a little bit too tight, so I just have to bang on it for a little while to get it in there. But the revision that I just did in the Fusion360 tutorial will have that be a lot close, or let's have a lot more space in it so that this can fit in it just fine. And now see, that hole is finally lined up and looks pretty good.
All right, so in total, just a few hours of work, most of the hours being the printing time. This did take 5.5 hours to print. Again, there are different ways that you can make one work for you. You can modify this more. I could have made this smaller, bigger, however I need it to be, but this way it worked out just fine for me. So it takes just a few hours to print it, and about 2 hours total of kind of finicking with your clearances and things like that. Make sure you get that to fit in real nice and easy. But now I have a power supply that I can use for any project, and I have several projects coming up that I need an easy portable power supply that I can just plug in any power cord into it, add an XT-60 jumper to whatever project I'm working on, plug it into here, and I have 12 volt power. You can easily do this with 24 volt. You can make this bigger and add a little buck inside of it, or a down converter for the voltage, and have 24 and 12 volt outputs. I chose 2 12 volt outputs, well 4 in total, but 2 for higher amperage and 2 for just like LEDs, something like that I need to test out. I can use this for that. This is 15 amps, so it's plenty of power for whatever project I need to work on. So you can buy a power supply, use one you have laying around, and this might just be a usable thing for you. I do hope this kind of got you guys thinking a little bit to what you can do with the things you have on hand. I had everything for this on hand. I had the plugs, the connectors, the power supply. Everything was just here in my shop. I needed something, so I went ahead and built it. Very simple to do. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, give it a big thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. Talk to me in the comments either way. I'd love to know what you guys thought about the Fusion tutorial, about how I did this video, anything like that. Talk to me down below. If you guys want to stay tuned what's going on, make sure you become a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, and then hit the bell icon. That way you get an email notification when I upload new content. If you guys want to support me financially, you can always become a patron. Down below there's a link for that. It only takes $1 to get access to my Patreon feed and the after show. Also have a special role over on the Discord. Go ahead and check that out. Other ways you can help financially is there are some one-time donation links or a bunch of affiliate links for things that you might need if you don't have these parts, you want to order them, or if you're just missing one piece of all those links down below for what you need to get this project done. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, happy printing.